States Congress, including the Senate. So
If
I
that.
think having people like him around, it's good. It's good for us to have wild cards. And it's not it's not Massie's fault that the Republicans only have a 2 or 3 seat majority, right? Why are we backing primary challenges against him? As you said, he's been absolutely courageous on foreign aid, on Israel. He stood up to AIPAC, free speech. I mean, this guy, Maha, don't forget, by the way, even on the Elon thing, it would be preposterous for Thomas Massie to speak out against Elon. Thomas Massie was one of the first people in Congress to buy a Tesla. And if you'll all recall, Massie was on that call with Elon Musk when Ron DeSantis did his disastrous campaign launch. Thomas Massie loves Elon Musk and he loves Doge. So this idea is ridiculous that he's not, in the camp. It's just that he is a libertarian and he doesn't want to vote for CRs and continued spending. He even said, he's like, look, according to you, Doge, you found massive fraud in USAID. This CR continues to fully fund USAID. So aren't you guys kind of full of it from the White House asking for full funding of an agency you say is corrupt? So what's up with that?
Right.
None of it makes any sense. Now, you're right. He has survived multiple primary challenges. I was just looking back here.
I know AIPAC came after him.
Oh, they came after him.
And funded a primary challenge.
In
And
2024.
I don't think they even came close.
No,
I think
he didn't even break 20%.
Yeah.
And Massie is, again, he's one of those folks who is genuinely, he's like Bernie. He's one of those people, to me at least, where all the caricatures of him are BS. You know who he is. He's a principled guy in his votes, in the way he talks, in how, he's made decisions which are some of the most inconvenient in all of Washington because of what he believes. And I think his constituents reward him for that. So broadly, I don't think that this will work. People like him, Chip Roy is another example who Trump is currently backing a primary challenge against. These guys are, they actually believe what they say, which is one of the most rare things in the entire city. So I'm behind him 100%, and I do think it's pretty ridiculous to primary him for the problems and the challenges that are a creation of this GOP caucus, not of Thomas Massie. It's not his fault. Also, by the way, you could easily have the CR pass if you had worked with Democrats, right? But you don't want to do that.
Right.
There's a lot of different varieties. It's like, this is just where they demand fealty to the king. And I think that's just ridiculous.
Not to overanalyze this,
Right.
but also the comparison to Liz Cheney.
Yeah, right.
These are ideologically wildly different people.
Right.
But to me, it's the perfect emblem of how politics in the Trump era just collapses down to the central divide. Are you with Trump or are you against him? And so if you go against him on anything, even though he's completely, he is probably the biggest Doge supporter. He's all about the project of cutting government that Elon is engaged in, that Trump has fully, thrown his backing for at this point. He would be the number one guy in support of that. But because he dares to buck Trump on anything, then you get thrown in the category of Liz Cheney, which, for the Republicans, that's the greatest insult you can possibly be imagine to be compared to a traitor such as Liz Cheney. So I thought that was, interesting and very telling as well. Let me go ahead and get into some of the details of this bill. I think Sagar makes a good point about one of the levels of absurdity about this is, of course, all the Republicans are claiming that the government is rife with all of this massive waste, fraud, and abuse, that some of these agencies should be destroyed and cut out entirely. Yet here you are whipping your entire caucus to vote to continue what you allege is massively fraudulent spending across the board in all of this government. So this is, one of the things that a Thomas Massie would certainly be bucking. But I think, let's put this up on the screen. They say the 99-page legislation would slightly decrease spending overall from last year's funding levels, but would increase spending for the military. Don't worry. In a nod to the concerns of GOP defense hawks that stopgap measures would hamstring the Pentagon, would not include any funds for any earmarks for projects in lawmakers' districts or states, saving roughly $13 billion. According to congressional aides, also provides a slight funding boost for ICE. An additional $485 million gives the administration more flexibility on how the agency can spend it. Also increases funding for the federal program that provides free groceries to millions of low-income women and children, known as WIC, by about $500 million. The other line from Democrats is who I think are going to hang together and vote in lockstep, certainly in the House. Schumer has been a little bit cagier about the direction there, but I know Hakeem Jeffries is whipping a no vote among the Democratic House members, and I think they're likely to stick with that, and all of them vote against this continuing resolution, basically be like, look, y'all have the majority. Go ahead, do your thing. Republicans did get a little bit of a boost because a Democratic member just died, so their majority they now have like a 4-vote margin instead of a 3-vote margin. I think I'm correct about the numbers there. But Democrats are also saying, because of the nature of a continuing resolution versus actual budgeting and specific appropriations and funding bills, it hands more power and discretion to the executive. And amidst their concerns and my concerns and many people's concerns about what DOJ is doing and the unaccountable nature of the way that they are grabbing power for the executive, that is one of the concerns that Democrats have with this as well.
Yeah, I mean, if the problem I just see with this is, what are we trying to do here? Are you funding USAID or not? Why would you fully fund the government if you don't agree with funding the government? The argument right now from the White House is that, well, we need full range so that we can continue to work. And then maybe in September, after all that runway, we'll be able to come back and say that we're going to, it's like, okay, well, I've never seen that ever happen before, right? This idea that you're supposed to vote for something that funds programs which you yourself are saying are bad. Now, that's on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, it's the opposite. It's, well, why would we vote to authorize funding for these programs if you guys are just going to decide what to spend money or not?
Anyway.
So then if you're going to shut it down, then no, we're not going to vote for it. So it's a very ideologically inconsistent position and genuinely could lead to a shutdown. I mean, that's one thing that I think people really should pay attention to. Put B3 back up there, because it's very important to say, like, the House Democrats are whipping no on this plan. There is a razor thin margin right now in the House of Representatives. Massie is a no. How is this going to pass through the House? And even if it did, as we said, they're going to have some votes that happen in the Senate and effectively play chicken. And if they do play chicken over this, I'm not sure yet that the Democrats wouldn't want to cause a government shutdown. Because, I mean, can you think of anything that would send the stock markets and all of that even more over a cliff? It would be a shutdown, right? Because of how much public money and services and all that are the American public is dependent on. So purely from just a cynical standpoint, you would want to cause as much chaos as possible and just say, like, no, we're not going to bail you out. In a messaging war, I don't think you win. My general theory of shutdowns has always been that shutdowns always fall on the person who is in charge. And as much as the president and all of them always try and campaign against Congress, unless somebody like Newt Gingrich literally stands up and is like, I'm shutting down the government specifically for this and this, you're going to have a tough time and you're going to eat it.
I mean, they have a trifecta.
No, I know.
Like, they're in control. So,
yes,
I mean, I think most people just logically conclude you're in charge of the government, so this is probably your fault. And I think they know that. I mean, they're certainly trying to shift the blame to Democrats, but I don't know who could really buy that when Democrats don't control the House or the Senate or the White House. In terms of the prospects in the Senate, there was some hope there on the Republican side because Schumer has said things about how Democrats don't want to be part of shutting down the government, blah, blah, blah. But more and more moderate, like sort of centrist-y type Democrats like Mark Warner, like Tim Kaine, have come out and said, no, we're not helping Republicans with this. This is all on them. So I think hope is fading in the Senate, too, that any Democrats would be likely to go along with it. Maybe you'll get a John Fetterman. You never know. You never know. Yes, you could get a John Fetterman. But in any case, it's not looking great for Republicans in terms of Democrats helping them out of the jam that they have created for themselves. Just to get a sense of the Democratic messaging on this, we have a clip. Who is this from? I don't remember. Some congressman that I don't really know. McGovern. Yeah. Congressman McGovern sort of laying out his case. And, I think this is pretty consistent with overall Democratic messaging on the continuing resolution. Let's take a listen.
I think maybe you guys need to take a refresher course in arithmetic. Last time I checked, you have the majority in the House and in the Senate, and you control the White House. The idea that somehow Democrats have the responsibility to pass a CR or any bill, quite frankly, where we don't have any input on, I think is ridiculous. I mean, you run around bragging about this big mandate. Well, put on your mandate pants and pass whatever you want to do. And I think you probably will have the votes because even the so-called principled conservatives who don't like CRs, I think they're suffering from a case of Victoria Sparks syndrome, where on Monday they're a hard no, and then on Tuesday they're a hard yes. They'll cave. So, but the idea that somehow being in charge means that you don't have to take the responsibility of running this place is absurd.